Week before last, when we had our last lesson, Moses got in trouble in Egypt. He was trying to rescue his people, which he knew God wanted him to do, or he had the urge to do, but he did it by murdering a guy, and that wasn't good. And it ended up with him, that's why that was over there. It ended up with him running away in order to save his life, because Pharaoh was going to kill him. So he ended up in Midian, and you remember he rescued, there were some shepherdesses that were having trouble with some shepherds, and he rescued the girl shepherds and watered their sheep. He went home with their dad, with them, met their dad. He ended up marrying one of them and had 2 sons with them, and he worked for his father-in-law. He spent 40 years herding sheep. Now, the first 40 years of his life, he spent in Pharaoh's palace, and he learned, I am sure, government and military and all the things that the daughter of, or son of Pharaoh's daughter would be expected to learn. But that wasn't enough for his education, for what he needed, for what God had for him to do. Now he gets to spend 40 years on the backside of the desert with sheep. Now the Bible constantly compares us to sheep. And sheep are adorable. As the baby sheep, there's just not very many things cuter than a baby sheep. But it's not a compliment that God compares us to sheep, because an adult sheep, there's very little that is as stupid as an adult sheep. And they are stubborn, and they are curious, and that combination gets them killed frequently. So now Moses, for his second part of his education, he herds the sheep, and he's pulling them out of the ditches and away from the sides of the cliffs, and he is, I'm sure, killing the predators that want to have lamb sandwiches for lunch. And he's just doing all you do to take care of sheep. He anoints them with oil to keep the bugs away from them, and he gives them medicine when they're sick, and everything needed for that. One day he is out, after 40 years of this, he is out and he sees a bush on fire. But the bush is not burning up. It's staying all green and pretty. And he said, that's weird. And so he walked closer to it to see what was going on. How can a bush be on fire and still be fresh and green? When he got close to it, a voice spoke out of the bush and said, Moses, take off your shoes. You're on holy ground. I mean, it's weird enough that the bush is on fire but not burning up. Now it's talking to him. So, and this is the days before cartoons, so he had no exposure to talking bushes. It would freak me out, and I've seen cartoons of talking plants. So he took his shoes off, and God told him, Moses, it is time for you to go back to Egypt and to lead my people out of Egypt. Well, Moses started to argue with God. He said, God, I don't talk so good. My tongue gets tied, and I'm not very good at it, so you need to send someone else. And God said, I created your tongue. If I tell you to do it, you can do it. As a sign, I want you to take your hand, and I want you to put it inside your coat. And then I want you to take it out. So Moses did, and he took his hand out, and the Bible says it was as white as snow. It was covered in leprosy. And we know from previous lessons, leprosy is a deadly skin infection, skin disease. And then he put his hand back in his coat when God told him to. He took it out, and it was all brand new, just like it was before. Yeah, I might get a different coat later, too. God said, what have you got in your hand, Moses? And Moses said, well, I've got my shepherd's rod. God said, throw it on the ground. So Moses threw it on the ground, And that shepherd's rod turned into a snake. And I probably would have run away from it. I don't know if Moses jumped away from it or what. God told him, pick it up, Moses. Moses was a brave man. He picked up the snake, and it turned back in to his shepherd's rod. Then God said, you've got some water with you, because you carry your water with you when you're in the desert. Pour some out on the ground. When he did, it turned into blood. God said, when you get in front of Pharaoh, you do these three things in front of Pharaoh. You do these three things in front of the leaders of Israel. And that will prove that I am the one who sent you. And Moses said, well, what is your name? So I can tell them who it is. And he said, I am. And that is, in the Bible, we'll nerd out a little bit here. In the King James, you have, see, I'll go the right direction so you guys can see. The word Lord, L-O-R-D, in capitals in the King James. That comes from the Hebrew word Yahweh. So it was translated into the English word Lord, which means boss and owner. But Yahweh means I am. So throughout the Bible, when it says Lord, in that particular font, it means the I am. When they asked Jesus, who are you? Jesus said, I am. He was saying he was Yahweh. That's who Jesus was. And that is the same name they gave, that God gave to Moses to tell him. He also said, you know, you're going to do all this, but Pharaoh's not going to listen to you, and I'm going to kill his oldest son. So he told him ahead of time what was going to happen. Moses continued to protest, unfortunately, and God said, all right, your brother Aaron is going to meet you on your way to Egypt. He'll do the talking. You tell him what to say. I think if Moses had been willing to do the talking, that we would have the Mosaic priesthood instead of the Aaronic or Aaron descended priesthood. But because he refused to do that, the priesthood went through his brother Aaron instead of through him. So let's sing a song. The Lord is my shepherd, I'll walk with him always. He knows me and he loves me.